I'm joined by Tina Park. She's the Vice President of the NATO Association of Canada. Tina, thanks for joining us on CTV News Channel. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So, Tina, what's your understanding of this uncertainty that continues to prevail on North Korea? It's almost like we are waiting to see whether or not Kim will fire another missile, send a Christmas gift or whatever else. Who is to be blamed for this situation?
Well, actually, I think it's difficult to blame any one party for the deadlock that we're seeing between North Korea and the United States. What has happened is that there is a general agreement about denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula, but they haven't been able to reach a clear timeline and accountability mechanism on how to go about it. So I think what's really important at this point is to get away from this cycle and regain the political momentum so that they could really discuss the tangible accountability mechanism and having a clear sense of what North Korea is willing to give up in exchange for what the United States is willing to give in.
Tina, in the latest, we have heard from the White House that appropriate action will be taken if there is another missile fired, and that White House has quote-unquote tools in its kit to deal with North Korea. This is a strong warning to Kim, but do you think that Kim Jong-un will alter the path that he is on right now? Because the deadline set by him for the US has almost been reached.
Actually, I think what's really important to recognize here is that both sides are very much interested in reaching an agreement, regardless of all the difficulties that we've seen so far. It's very difficult to break away from the years of hostilities they faced between the two countries when it comes to North Korea's nuclear weapons program. And we know that, for instance, this week with North Korea's so-called Christmas gift, there was high alert of 22 reconnaissance planes from the U.S. Sent over to patrol the Korean Peninsula just in case North Korea fires an ICBM or submarine-based missile. So there was a high level of tension, which just proved to be a false alarm. So I think at this particular point, we should wait and see if they are able to get away from this mode of tension, which they are, and move towards more concrete steps.
You know, we've also heard, Tina, that North Korean state agency reporting that Kim met with top ruling party officials to discuss, quote, important policy matters. What would they include in a situation like that?
Well, it is true that the Central Committee had a meeting, and this is nothing unusual in North Korea, that before Kim Jong-un's New Year's address, which will happen in a few days, the party and North Korean regime at large wanted to have a policy discussion on, I think most importantly, economic and political issues. So we know that North Korea is still facing a lot of difficulties because of sanctions and their diversion of resources into security and defense capabilities. And because of the deadlock that we're also seeing between the negotiations with Washington and other parties involved, North Korea is really interested in investing more in their tourism project and finding ways to overcome the sanctions. So we know, for instance, China and Russia are working towards easing the sanctions imposed on North Korea.
I was just going to come to the international community on this situation. We've heard from, countries like Japan, South Korea, as well as China, calling to take concrete steps in their relationship between the US and North Korea. What do you see changing in 2020?
What I am hoping for in 2020 is that the international community could come up with a collective position on North Korea. We know that there are very different sets of interests at play when it comes to North Korea. So between China, Russia, the United States, and South Korea, and even Japan, they all have different national interests when it comes to North Korea and the future of the Korean Peninsula at large. And unless they could collectively come together to agree upon what they're willing to give in to North Korea in exchange for a change of behavior on Pyongyang's part, I don't think we will see much of a change. And I think it's also important to recognize that North Korea and South Korea have come a long way in the past few years in reaching certain agreements and overcoming their years of hostilities. So I would look forward to more inter-Korean projects, whether it is railway or family reunions or tourism projects that will help two countries reconcile from the past, move forward.
Well, it's always good to be hopeful, isn't it, Tina? But we leave it at that. Tina Park, Vice President of the NATO Association of Canada, thank you for joining us on CTV News Channel, and have a great year ahead.
Thank you.